Hi everyone, I'm Sophie Milburn, editor of the MSP Channel Insights portfolio, and I'm joined today by both Roy from Cynomi and Phil from Intercity Technology. Thank you both so much for joining me today. Could you both kind of briefly introduce yourselves, your role at both of your companies, and a little bit about the companies themselves?
So yeah, I'm Phil Bindley. I'm the field CISO at Intercity. So my role involves going out and helping our customers to understand their current cybersecurity posture, where the risks are in their business, help them achieve particular compliance standards that maybe they're driven towards by customers or regulators, or just the fact that they want to make sure that they are doing the right things. We work with a lot of customers, perhaps in the sort of the SME, SMB space, where perhaps there isn't that full-time cybersecurity leadership within those businesses, and that virtual fractional CISO role sort of fills that gap. My background is in technology. I started, the infancy of the internet, and worked my way through a number of MSPs and MSSPs, both in the UK and in Europe, becoming the CTO stroke CISO at a couple of those. And more recently at Intercity, who are a 40-year-old technology service provider based in Birmingham, but also have offices in Bolton and in Bedford and Northampton, serving customers across pretty much every vertical market that you can imagine, and everything from sort of mobile phones to cloud services and everything to do with security.
Fantastic, thank you.
Cool. So I'll go next. So I'm Roy. I'm co-founder and Chief Information and AI Officer at Cynomi. We're a bit of a younger company than Intercity. We've been founded in 2021. We are a security growth platform. We help service providers standardize compliance and security delivery. We work with over 300 partners worldwide to do this. And we work exclusively through our partner network. So we only work with service providers.
Brilliant. Thank you. Great overview from both. So Phil, kind of before we dive into the main questions, I just want to say congratulations on being named Cynomi's founding cohort of transformational cyber leaders. And what did that recognition kind of mean for you, and how does it reflect the work that you're doing at Intercity?
Yeah, it was a complete surprise. I had no idea that it was coming, and it was a real honor to be named in that sort of founding cohort of transformational cybersecurity leaders. Which, if you try to put that on a business card, it'd be a very big one.
Yeah.
But for me, that just goes to the fact that the platform, plus the kind of knowledge and experience that we're bringing alongside that into our customers, means that we're making a real difference to our customers. We're really transforming them from a cybersecurity risk perspective, and the platform is really expedited that process, because historically, to uncover all of that data, to be able to get to a point in time where you could say to a customer, this is where you are today, and here's a clear roadmap for the next 12, 24, 36 months. That was a huge amount of work for us to do, and a huge cost to the customer. What the Cynomi platform, in conjunction with our service wrap around it, the virtual CISO, has enabled us to do is to speed all of that up and to deliver it in a very consistent way across every single customer, regardless of what vertical market they're in, what compliance standards they need to adhere to. So it's really just accelerated that process and helped us scale the practice in a way that perhaps would have been more challenging historically.
Fantastic, thank you. So with Cynomi expanding its NIS2 support to Croatia and Belgium, what are the kind of biggest challenges that MSPs face in adopting to country-specific transpositions of EU regulations? And how does your platform kind of simplify this process?
It's the same directive, but it's a bit of a different rule book, and that introduces another layer of complexity. And if we look at our goal as MRR, monthly recurring revenue, from a service provider perspective, complexity is sort of your enemy. What we've done is basically we've now added these standards into the Cynomi platform, and that does two things. One, it means that the heavy lifting is done for you. Basically, as a platform user, you can go through the platform and be guided through the steps. But second, and I think this is no less important, we didn't add it as a siloed module. It's not a new list of checkboxes that you need to add, but it's actually integrated into our overall framework. So if you've already done an ISO 27001 assessment for an end customer, you will just see the incremental controls that you need to end in order to be compliant with these new frameworks.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. MSPs and MSSPs often struggle to turn regulatory compliance into scalable services. So how does Cynomi enable partners to move from kind of manual assessments to repeatable revenue generating managed services?
So I think it very much links to what I mentioned earlier. So I think if you look uh, at compliance as a list of checkboxes,
Mhm.
then you're gonna end up with maybe an annual project where you go and you tick boxes, and that's where it's gonna stay. But if you look at it more holistically, if you say, okay, this compliance framework is a reflection of this company's cybersecurity posture through certain controls, and your goal is to take ownership of that, then you become from an assessor that ticks boxes to a
Mm.
partner, someone that guides them through their cybersecurity journey. And their cybersecurity journey is an ongoing one. And that's really the concept that we've built the platform around. So everything translates back to the customer's posture. Everything is actionable. You get not just controls in the platform, but tasks on bridging gaps, making sure that your customers reach the compliance readiness that they need to. And it's all ongoing, it's all recurring.
Fantastic. Phil, is that kind of in line with what you've been seeing at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. What Roy just said is kind of
Mm.
my answer to that question. But in reality, when you're with a customer, when you're working through, the initial assessment phase and getting to the point where they understand where they are, they may be driven by they just want to understand where the risks are. They may not even be looking at a compliance framework yet, but they understand that they have risk in their business. And the platform gives us that risk management framework out of the box once we've been through that assessment phase. So it may be that the customer approaches it from the lens of risk, but
Mm.
equally, I've worked with other customers, particularly a couple in the legal sector here in the UK, where it was mandated by the people that do legal aid that they had to be cyber essentials. So we were able to do a very quick assessment with them within sort of 3 hours or so to get them to the point that not only do they understand where the risk is, but they also understand where they are benchmarked against the cyber essentials standard. And
Right.
as Roy mentioned, the task list is then built and we can build a program and a plan that's realistic and achievable so that they can go away and with my assistance or with a fractional CISO on their shoulder help to guide them through that process.
Mm. Fantastic. I think this is the longest I've gone in an interview without the word AI coming up yet, so I'm going to have to obviously do it. But AI governance is emerging as a buyer expectation. So how are MSPs kind of leveraging Cynomi to offer operational AI oversight, and what kind of common pitfalls should people kind of avoid when packaging AI governance as a service?
So I think let's start with the pitfalls.
Mhm.
So I think one of the things that it's very important for service providers to realize is that AI governance is not a future theoretical project, right? The
Mhm.
timing is now. We're seeing three vectors pushing this, right? We're seeing the companies themselves understanding that they're using AI. At Cynomi, we mandate AI usage. Every employee needs to prove that they're using AI to do their job better. So
Mhm.
companies understand that this is being used within the workforce and want to mitigate the risks from that. We're seeing regulation coming in, right? EU AI Act, and even in the US, you're starting to see some regional directives in Texas, in Colorado, and California. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, it's coming from the supply chain, right? So, we've been an AI company since inception, but only in the last year, I've been asked by potential customers, what models are you using? Where is the human in the loop? Things that were never asked before. And now that supply chain pull is there. So I think the first thing is you need to understand it's now. It's not a future opportunity. It's not a theoretical project. It's an opportunity that can be acted on now. And
Mhm.
second, It's not an annual audit or process. AI usage is changing all the time. So it's actually ideally catered to the way service providers already interact with their customers. And if you're looking to drive monthly recurring revenue, this is the ideal environment that you want to be in. In terms of how we support it, so we already support some of the key frameworks. NIST AIRMF, EU AI Act, um, and basically we've integrated it into our solution. So you work with it and mitigate it as you would any other risk within the Sanomi platform.
Mm. Is that kind of similar to how you've been implementing it at your company, Phil, or are you kind of using it slightly differently?
So I think basically with the vast majority of our customers, there's kind of two driving forces that are making them stand up and think about how they're using AI. Number one, the board, the senior leadership cohort in that organization are very much of the opinion that we need to be using AI. It's a competitive advantage. It's going to be making us more productive, more efficient. It's going to drive results to the bottom line. Ultimately, that's why businesses are looking at AI. But they have this sort of nagging doubt about, is it safe? And then they may have read a couple of stories about where somebody's chucked a load of proprietary intellectual property into a public LLM and it's gone forever, or all these
Mm.
kind of horror stories that we're hearing about, when AI isn't governed properly, and the thing, the pitfalls that Roy mentions around that.
Mm.
And I think equally and oppositely, you've got the user community, the colleagues in any organization. They want to get on and they want to use AI, but equally they're not quite sure that they're using it properly, and they're worried that they might make mistakes, and therefore that has to coalesce at some point, and we have to have a framework. We have to govern the way that it's used. But the first thing that we have to understand in any of our customers when we're talking about this particular topic is, what are you doing with it today? What is actually happening now with AI in your organization? Because there's so much, let's call it shadow AI, that is completely uncontrolled and completely ungoverned, and that's a risk. And that's the first thing that you have to discover is actually, what are you doing with it today? And once we understand that, we can then use certain frameworks to guide the usage of that within those organizations.
Yeah. What other kind of advice would you say that you have people that are a bit hesitant with using AI? Because like you said, it will be that competitive advantage and we should be encouraging people to use it. But is there anything that you'd kind of say, yeah, to those people that are a bit hesitant or those companies that are a bit hesitant?
I think it's the same with any sort of new technology. You get that cycle of hype, that the hype cycle, as it were, where everyone starts using it and then they don't feel that they're really getting the benefit from it, and then they stop using it because it hasn't realized these amazing things that they were trying to do. And I think my advice around the use of AI in any organization is that understand it in the context of what you're going to be using it for.
Mm.
Mhm.
So many people just go in there, oh, I'm going to use AI. It's like 20 years ago, people saying, I'm going to the cloud.
Mm.
What does that mean in reality?
Yeah.
And actually, it's about use cases. And I spoke on a panel back end of last year, and there was a guy from a steel manufacturer, and he'd gone about it in exactly the right way. He was their CFO. And what he did is he brought in people from all corners of the business. He gave them 3 hours to experiment and play around with different AI tools. And then he sent them back into the day job and said, go and have a think about how you can use these tools to make what you do better, quicker, faster, easier.
Mm.
And within 3 weeks, they had 46 identified little AI projects that they wanted to go and deliver, because they'd asked the people that were doing it and given them some training around how to do it, and obviously put the governance in place around those things by driving them through controlled projects and a program, rather than letting people just go off, and it be the AI Wild West.
Yeah. I'd never thought about it like that, like doing it like a actionable workshop. That would be a good way to, yeah, to look at it. What about you, Roy?
Mhm.
Would you say you have any more kind of advice on use of AI, or do you agree with Phil?
I think I can attest from our own subjective experience at Sanomi that the benefits are real. I mean, we're seeing them in R&D, we're seeing them in product, but we're also seeing it on the GTM team. We're also seeing it in marketing and customer success. So I think companies that want to be successful don't really have a choice. They
Mm.
need to find a safe, secure way to adapt it.
Yeah. Fantastic. And then my final question would be, looking ahead, what kind of trends or opportunities do you see for MSPs or MSSPs over the next couple of years, especially when looking at AI governance, regulatory compliance, and kind of delivering continuous security services?
I think the biggest opportunity is to transition from the classical role of the security enforcer
Mm,
to one of an enabler. Because successful companies will need to make the leap to AI. And MSPs and service providers that develop this strong partnership with their customers can be a guide on this journey. So,
mm,
not just telling them, this is the safe way to use that or don't use that, but actually showing them what they can use, how they can do it securely, what are the opportunities that they may be overlooking because as service providers there's the advantage of seeing across the board what different companies are doing. So I think that's really the key opportunity here, and it's a significant one because it transforms the relationships and it can transition the service provider from talking primarily to the IT department at their customers to having board level conversations. So I really think it's a it's a once in a generation opportunity
mm.
to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Phil?
I think for me, with a lot of the customers that I'm working with, they're aware that there is a storm brewing in terms of what the expectations upon them are going to be in terms of their sort of overall cybersecurity posture, their cybersecurity. And that, as Roy kind of mentioned, is driven by the supply chain.
Mm,
A lot of people that work with larger organizations are going to be mandated to adhere to certain standards. There was a letter written by the government and the CEO of the National Cybersecurity Centre off the back of the annual review in November of last year, where they told the top 350 companies in the UK that you should be mandating that Cyber Essentials is in every organisation that's within your supply chain.
mm,
And if you look at the kind of uptake of Cyber Essentials across the board in the UK, it's woeful at this moment in time.
mm,
So I think there's going to be a bit more stick. Historically, it's been a lot of carrot around, getting yourself into a better position. But I believe currently the government in situ believes, and the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology believes that something as simple as Cyber Essentials is something that should be mandated across the UK.
mm,
We're seeing that with other legislation that's going through Parliament at the moment, the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill, and what the outcome of that will be. Potentially for anyone in receipt of public funds are going to have to attest to the fact that they have those controls in place.
mm,
I think there's probably a third vector as well that will evolve over the coming years, which is actually contract law,
mm.
in that people, when they reply to an RFP, they have to answer all these questions about where they are from a security perspective. But I can see a lot of that getting baked into contracts. And on the basis of, if you tell me that you are doing all of these things to keep yourself safe, and you have a cybersecurity incident that prevents you from supplying me with the goods and services that I need to do what I do and provide my goods and services to my end customers, and there is a financial impact of that, you're going to be litigated against for consequential loss.
Mm,
Whether it will ever go as far as health and safety and the way that that transformed, in my humble opinion, that transformed the moment that directors of organizations became criminally responsible for this.
right.
Will we ever get legislation that pushes it that far? That directors of organizations become criminally responsible for complete negligence when it comes to keeping those organizations safe? I don't know, but I can see that that might be a direction of travel if people don't volunteer and step up their efforts to make themselves more safe.
Yeah. It's
Mhm.
almost like, is it almost got too complex though, where there's too many blurred lines to kind of put that in place? Or like you said, is that something that will happen in the future? It'll be interesting to see. Sure. No, thank you so much for both of your time. That's all of my questions.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie.